Hey, Ben, are there 5 practices that will make us a better leader?
It's so funny you'd ask. There are exactly 5 practices. Let's talk about them.
Wow.
Welcome to the Friday Habit with Benjamin Manley and Mark Labriola II.
The Friday Habit is for creators, entrepreneurs, and agency owners looking for actionable ideas on how to grow their business and be more profitable.
We'll pull from our combined knowledge of over 20 years and interview thought leaders that will inspire you and give you the motivation you need to kick your business into high gear. Buckle up. It's Friday.
And we're back
We're back. We're back in your ears for another episode.
for another episode. Hey, and if you're enjoying these episodes, don't forget to head over to iTunes or really wherever you listen to your podcast and give us a 5-star rating and leave a review. We love hearing from you guys and we like reading your reviews on our show. So don't forget to leave a little review and we'll read it right here on the Friday Habit.
Love it. Hey, Mark, I have a question for you.
I got answers, bro.
What is your earliest memory of a leadership position? It doesn't have to be necessarily like something that was given to you, but do you ever remember like your first time you realized that you might be a leader?
Yeah, and interesting enough, I would say it wasn't that long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, I was in a band for a decade almost, and I was a lead singer of that band, and I was a leader, if you will. But I never quite felt like it. And then I had some jobs where, people looked up to me and I guess they would say that I led them, but I never really felt like a leader then either.
Interesting.
But then my first job, I was as the director of creative media for this real estate tech startup. I actually got my first employee where they kind of reported to me. They weren't my employee, but they reported to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the very first time where I really felt like, oh man, like I think this person is looking to me to like give them guidance and leadership.
Yeah.
And so really at that point, I really started to, take that to heart and think about how can I be a better leader? How can I be someone who is worthy to be looked up to? And that was probably 2014. So, not too long ago.
That's cool. Yeah, I was just thinking back before we started recording. I was like, I wonder, like, when I first started becoming aware of like leadership and stuff. And I actually it took me back to Boy Scouts. I just remembered immediately. The first thing I remember is I think I just joined and I got became the quartermaster. I had to go to Sam's before I camp out and like collect like all the food. I got like giant cart full of like eggs to make for the next day and sausage and all that. And I felt like so nervous that I was like going to forget something and everybody would hate me for not bringing the right food or something. But I remember Boy Scouts being quartermaster. That's not really a leadership position, but it's a position of responsibility, And then I remember soon after that running for patrol leader. Boy Scouts are like separate patrols and we were the Wolf Patrol. And I took it so seriously that when I won, I designed on my computer this like whole like cool wolf that I had downloaded and photoshopped it and like added all these cool elements and wrote Wolf Patrol Troop 70 on it. And then I literally like printed it out and got an iron-on transfer and ironed it onto this canvas. And I built this like banner that looked like from like Game of Thrones or something that had like our Wolf Patrol flag.
Dude, so hardcore.
So I don't know. I just, I was a nerd and I took it super seriously. It was pretty fun. But yeah, I just remember, I think that was my first experience with leadership was just being Boy Scouts and that was a good time in my life.
Yeah, I think that there's probably, some benefit to that, right? As far as like Boy Scouts taught you that. I think one of those things for me, like I think why it took so long for me to feel like a leader was because I just had a poor vision of myself, like I didn't think like, oh, why would anyone look up to me or why would anyone want to follow me or like what qualifies me to be a leader. So I think I had a lot of like self-discovery that had to take place in order for me to actually feel that like that, even though throughout my life, there's been times where I've been put in situations where I've had to like, lead the charge and, make things happen. And I always did that. But I'm interested, to kind of talk about today's, topic, because I think it's one of those things where the more that someone can understand what that looks like and how that they can apply these things to help them become a better leader, the more they'll have that self-confidence. And then the more that the people that they are leading will have confidence in them, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people don't even think of themselves as leaders, but if you're influencing other people, I think that you're a leader and you have more influence than you realize a lot of times.
Yeah, totally.
So, 5 practices. I liked your intro. There's exactly 5 practices, no more, no less. These are the only ones. I think I should give a caveat too. I feel like sometimes, like, who are we to give advice? We're just giving from our experience. We don't know everything, and it's funny coming from an authority perspective sometimes on this podcast because we're just figuring it out, and
Yeah.
we enjoy it, but take everything we say with a grain of salt, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
all right,
Do some Googling after this episode.
revolutionary leadership tip number 1. Learn your weaknesses. This is actually one of my favorite ones. Sophia Amoroso says, true success lies in knowing your weaknesses and playing to your strengths. And that has rung really true for me, especially with starting my own business and leadership in my business. One example is for me, I'm a very focused person, so I will be 100% on one thing, but that means everything else in the world fades away. So I might be focusing on a project, but that means if I focus on a project for 3 days straight, that means no one's getting emails from me for 3 days straight, and that's a great recipe to create some angry clients and a bad customer experience, right?
Right.
So for me, one of my weaknesses I know is that I'm not great at consistent communication because I'm all in or all out with something. So because of that, it's helped me become a better leader and knowing that that's a weakness and that for my team to succeed, I need somebody that can complement and be somebody that's really consistent with communication. So that's why we have Joy on our team because she can do really well at that, where I can be great at my focusing and just getting a project done, and she can help balance out my weaknesses. So to me, I think just knowing your weaknesses is super, super helpful.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the sooner that you can do that, the sooner you can, I think, find growth, right?
Yes.
With everything, right? When I first started out, just running and gunning, doing everything, emails, videos, photos, editing, all these pieces of the pie I was doing, and I think that that's made me scrappy and it made me able to get to where I'm at. But as soon as I was able to work myself out of the things that I wasn't good at, I just saw huge amounts of growth and consistency and better customer service, all these other kind of things, because I was no longer the one with the keys to everything, And I think as leaders, sometimes it's hard to release those keys, right? When you don't want to admit that you have a weakness or that you're not good at something, and so you
Yeah.
kind of hold on to it. And really, it's important for us to give those things over and you allow yourself to trust somebody else to take those things over.
Yeah. And I think it actually is helpful to be vulnerable. I used to think that if you're a leader, you have to just pretend you have it all together. But being vulnerable, I think, can create more trust with other people because they're like, oh, you're a person too. And in some ways, I've noticed that with the leaders that I've followed, I feel endeared to them when they're like, hey, you know what? I'm really not good at this. Or, hey, guys, I'm having a rough week and sorry if I let you down on this project, or just admitting weaknesses. It's just like that builds a lot of trust and confidence to me when a leader does that. And it doesn't really undermine them like they might expect.
Yeah.
So, all right, revolutionary tip number 2.
All right.
Define your why.
Mm.
Author Simon Sinek says, working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. So to me, it's easy to get caught up in work and kind of forget why you're doing what you're doing. And sometimes that can just be discouraging and cause stress. And sometimes, you really are off of your why or you don't even have your why defined. So I think kind of helping define why you're doing what you're doing is really helpful. So for me, my company Knapsack, our mission is to help people be successful at doing what they love. And that really makes me excited because I want to build websites for people that love what they do so that their business can be successful and they can keep doing that. Because when somebody works in something that they love, I know that their life's going to be better, their family's life's going to be better. If they're stuck at a job they hate, then I just feel like that's just such a drain on their life. So if I can help them succeed by helping them do something they love, then that it gets me excited and helps me filter my decisions too.
Yeah, and I think it's about having that true north.
Yeah.
When you have your why, then whether something fits within that or not. We kind of have our mission statement. I don't know if it's necessarily why, but it's
Mhm.
really we're creating a lifestyle company that allows us to enrich the lives of the people we work with, as
Mhm.
well as give us the lifestyle that we want to live.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the lens that we put on everything that we do. It's one of those things where we ask ourselves, is this the right project for us to do? Does it fall within something that is enriching to us, or are we able to enrich the lives of the people that we're going to be working with? I love one of one of the guys that we both follow, Mike McCowitz. He says, the customer is not always right, but the right customer is always right. You
Hmm.
know, and so it's one of those things. Or when we're working with the right people and we've defined our why, everything that we do, we're able to enjoy more.
Yeah. Another kind of example of a mission or a why that I think is really cool is it's Google. Theirs is so simple: to organize the world's information. Like
Hmm.
that's kind of genius because it's so simple, but it takes so much work. And just thinking about all their products and how they actually do go back towards that goal of organizing the world's information. I think there's a little bit more to it now. I think it's like to organize the world's information and make it accessible and useful to all or something like that. But I think it's just so simple that it's
Yeah.
not only like a clear goal, but it's also kind of inspiring because you're like, yeah, I want to get on board with that. Sounds really cool.
Yeah. Didn't they used to have like do no evil or something like that?
Don't be evil. That was Google, right? It wasn't Facebook, was
Yeah.
it? I think it was Google. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
Google, their like original one when they were in the garage, building servers.
Uh-huh.
Our mission is to do no evil.
I love it. I wonder if that's still, I should see if that's still on their site. I should Google that.
You should
All
Google
right.
it.
Number 3, make concrete goals. You like how I have quotes with everyone?
I
So
do.
here we go.
Fantastic. Write this one on your mirror, folks.
Get ready. This guy, it's Tony Robbins, motivational speaker. I can't do his voice, but Tony Robbins says, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. So, you can define your why, but unless you kind of take that general why of like to organize the world's information, it's like, okay, but we need to kind of break that down a little bit. What do we need to start with first, right? So, one thing I think this has been around for a long time is this idea of SMART goals. It's like an acronym. Basically, it's a few different criteria to help you decide if your goal is a good goal. So, SMART goal is specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time bound. And you can Google that and learn more about that. But that's a good way to basically break down your why into some more specific goals and help you move forward. And I think having those specific goals and even writing them on a whiteboard, or I actually just ordered a blackboard. It just came in where we're going to write our quarterly goals and kind of keep it in front of the team because sometimes we forget them. We just write it down in a document on our computer somewhere. We don't look at it, but we're going to hang up that blackboard this quarter and be able to see like every day, hey, what did we each say our goals were for this quarter? So we can kind of keep it in front of us.
I really love that. Yeah. A quote I've heard is, without hard work, a great strategy remains a dream. And without a great strategy, hard work becomes a nightmare.
Oh, snap. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. It's like, it's kind of busted my brain. I'm still thinking about it. It's really good.
Yeah.
Number 4, listen to your team. Andy Stanley says, leaders who don't listen will eventually be surrounded by people who have nothing to say. So one just practical way to do this, I mean, to me, well, 2 things. One is that with my team, I had to learn to trust them. Sometimes I would maybe at first, I kind of discounted, like if they're like, oh, this part of our process probably should be tweaked because I think it's becoming a recurring problem. I might like kind of sweep it under the rug, like, it probably isn't that bad. Like, I think it's just probably a one-off thing or something like that. But then after I got into the trenches and I did that same exact thing, I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like this is a problem. Like I didn't realize it. Now when I'm in there, it becomes real to me. So that really taught me, like, I need to be listening to my team and taking their suggestions more seriously and not just brush it off or say, oh, it's probably not a big deal, because they know better than I do, like what's happening on the front lines, like working with a client on a specific project or whatever. So you have to be able to empower and like trust them and listen to them to make sure that you can keep improving your company.
Yeah. And creating space to listen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Something like the Friday habit.
Never heard of it. So yeah, so that is true. The Friday habit, it really incorporates this well because if you've looked at our system or listen to other episodes about that, basically throughout the week, people on on our team will submit any problems that come up, any ideas they have. So it's kind of a grassroots kind of thing of like coming up with ideas to make the business better. So we have a Slack channel called Friday. Everybody just submits any ideas that come up throughout the week, just post it into that channel. And then every Friday we have a meeting set aside to talk through each one of those issues or ideas as a team. So it's really cool. It's like a perfect way to systemize listening to your team. So I definitely recommend that if you do want to learn more about that. If you go to thefridayhabit.com and go all the way to the bottom of the page, we have a free download there that talks through how to implement that system in your business.
Yeah. And I think, the other point here you have is, trust your frontline workers. They're closest to the problem, which you kind of mentioned, right? Where when you have people who are doing things day in and day out, and sometimes I think when you're at the top of that food chain or as the leader, you think like, oh, I know everything. But the truth is that you don't know everything.
That's true. Number 5, stay curious. Author Brian Tracy says, commit yourself to lifelong learning. The most valuable asset you'll ever have is your mind and what you put into it. So for me personally, I think I'm a pretty boring person to listen to talk most of the time. So I'm glad you're on the podcast to make this work.
Man, I love talking with you.
So I feel like my strength is not charisma. Like if I was going to be, a leader based on like getting people hyped up about stuff, I think that's not something I would be good at. As many cult documentaries as I watch, it hasn't rubbed off on me. I don't know how to be that charismatic leader to convert people's minds. So I'm still working on that. But I do feel like I can lead with ideas and creativity. So even though I don't have that charisma necessarily, I feel like because I'm so curious and I always want to learn a new thing or how to do something better, that I can lead with those ideas and people trust me because I can say, hey, here's an even better way we could do this, or bringing in new learning all the time, or consuming stuff that's actually going to make our company better. So I think that that's really helped me just being curious.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, you probably have some sources too, but the way I like to learn the most, definitely podcasts are a really big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mastermind groups, audiobooks. Man, YouTube is such a great resource for learning so many things. It's like changed the world. I mean, it's amazing how many great tutorials there are on YouTube.
Yeah, if you're not paying for YouTube Premium, like you should, because it's totally worth it. No ads. You can listen to stuff in the background, so you can close down the app and it will still be playing if something is more audio focused.
It's really great that some company organized the world's video information. I'm really grateful for that.
That's right.
Also, even just like eating lunch with other business owners. I mean, right now it's COVID, so it's a little bit trickier. But even if you can get together, I've done a few things where I've like literally over lunch, like, hey, grab your food, I'll grab my food, and let's talk over Zoom or something, over lunch. And that way you can just kind of catch up and share knowledge with other people.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to be distracted with non-learning stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think whenever I'm constantly learning, I'm excited and I'm ready to implement something new. And I think this is one thing that I struggle with, as far as sometimes I feel like there's so much information out there and there's so many things that's like I don't even know where to start. But again, that's where it comes with setting goals, right? Once you get excited about something, it's like, okay, we're going to implement this system or this process, setting that goal, because it's easy to get information overload and then feel helpless. But I think that as a leader, it's so important to be consuming things that are going to inspire you and push you to be better, because you will just find that your company, everything just operates and moves in a forward trajectory. That if you're not growing, you're dying, they always say, right?
Yeah.
And so if you don't focus on growth, if you don't focus on bettering yourself and growing your company, it'll start to dwindle and fall apart.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and one other plug for the Friday Habit. The other cool thing about the Friday Habit is when you are learning all this stuff, using that system will help you capture those ideas. So like you're saying, there's so much information out there. And honestly, if you're just learning and not implementing anything, that's not really helping you either. So if you follow the Friday Habit system, it helps you capture any ideas you have and then helps you review them as a team and actually implement them into your business. So I definitely recommend checking that out.
Totally. All right. So to recap, these are the 5 most quintessential.
You don't need anything else. These are the only 5.
These are them. If you're listening to this podcast, you've made it. Okay, here we go. Number 1, learn your weakness. Number 2, define your why. Number 3, make concrete goals. Number 4, listen to the people around you, to your team. Maybe you don't have a team. Maybe you just have like a mentor or a friend who also has a business that can look into what you're doing. And then number 5, stay curious. Never stop learning and always push yourself to grow. Because what you put in is what you're going to get out.
That's right.
My mom used to always say, garbage in, garbage out.
So right. You didn't realize how true that was.
I know.
All right. So action item for this week. I would recommend taking some time to learn a little bit more about your weaknesses. I think it's one of the most valuable things you can do. So I would recommend going to 16personalities.com and take their free personality quiz. It'll help you learn a little bit more about yourself and help you identify weaknesses you have in life and in business that you might be overlooking.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, and once again, for the 3rd time this episode, go to thefridayhabit.com to find show notes for this episode. There you can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. At the bottom of that page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit System that will show you how to set aside 1 full day each week dedicated to working on your business instead of in your business all the time.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating or whatever rating you deem appropriate. We're humble. It could maybe be 4 stars. I don't know. I don't know if I'd go as low as 3, but
3.5, 4 would be good.
Yeah, we'd really appreciate it.
We can improve, right?
Yeah. And thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening to the Friday Habit. Hey, until next time, live every day like it's Friday.